So good evening class. Today we are going to discuss the concept of nested loop. We covered most of the thing from last week, but we didn't cover the concept of nested loop. So the concept of nested loop, it's a concept whereby we have a loop inside other loop. So the outer loop will be one, and all the other loops inside that outer loop will be known as the inner loops. So every time that the outer loop is repeated, because if you look at this example, for example, this loop will repeat 5 times, because we start with the value of I equal to 0, and the condition is to keep repeating this until I is no longer less than 5. So that will be repeated for I equal to 1, I equal to 2, I equal to 3, I equal to 4. You can guess 5 iterations: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So every time this outer loop is repeated, also the inner loops are reentered. So every time you take one of these iterations, the inner loop will be executed as well, and the value of the loop counter will always start from 0. So when I equal to 0, for example, you enter the inner loop, and the maximum value of I also will be 0. So there is one possible iteration, and that one will print 1 asterisk. So and when I equal to 1, and you remember when I equal to 1, then j will start from 0, and the maximum value for j will be 1. What happens? You have 2 iterations. You have 2 iterations, because one iteration is when j equal to 0, another iteration is when j equal to 1. You have 2 iterations, and that's why you see we have 2 asterisks here, because for every iteration we print those number of asterisks, as you can see from here. So when I equal to 2, the maximum value for g here will be 2. The maximum value for g will be 2, and if we put 2 here, so now you can guess j will be equal to 0, j equal to 1, and j equal to 2. You get 3 asterisks. So something that you see here. So if you continue like this one until the final value of I, which will be 4 here, you will see that you have this kind of triangle of those asterisks. So for every iteration, you can define the number of row as every iteration, and for every iteration also, the second loop will define the number of columns. So when I equal to 0, 1 column, and that's what you can see here. When I equal to 2, 2 columns, because the maximum value for j will be 1, and we have the values for j equal to 0 and j equal to 1. When I equal to 2, we have how many iterations? We have 3. We have 3 columns for j equal to 0, j equal to 1, and j equal to 2. And when I equal to this is 0, 1, 2, 3. This is when I equal to 3. Yes, we have got 4 iterations. That is for j equal to 0, j equal to 1, j equal to 2, and j equal to 3. So, and what is missing is 1 when I equal to 4. So you need to get this kind of asterisk as well. So you can print this pattern using this loop. All right. So maybe we can have one more example. No, we don't keep these annotations. We can have one more example. We open our notepad as usual. This is our notepad, and within our notepad, we can quickly have this example. Yes, we can have this example. Yeah, so this is a class which session 0 6 first example, and we do public static void main. Okay, and this is a string args or arg whatever. So we close the class element. Also we close the method. So now let's say we have two loops. Yes, you can have it. This is the first loop counter I, and you have another loop counter j, and for outer loop we can say for I equal to 0 we start with the value of 0. I equal to something like a 5, not necessarily 5, you can even say 8, or you can say 9. I plus plus. So for every single iteration for I, we can have another iteration for the inner loop, which is the j starting from 0, and j will depend on the value of I. If I is 1, if it's 0, the maximum value for j will be 0. If I equal to 2, maximum value for j will be 2, and we keep incrementing. So eventually what it means here, it will start with the value. We can print those values by the way and see what happens before we print something like a pattern. Output system out print. Yes, we print. We do not want to say print line. We print the value. Let's print the value of I first. No, sorry, because it's inner loop. We print the value for j, and we concatenate this with some space, so that you can have the visibility of the output of this statement. But when you finish every iteration, like this is this will be repeated for each iteration. So we can move to the next line when we finish iteration, so that you can see exactly what we mean. So let me save this example. So we are going to have it doesn't matter on a Sunday group or Wednesday group. The name of the file will be session 0601.java. So let's save it, and then let's open our command prompt, cmd, and we need to make sure that we move into that directory. Okay, cd desktop, cd auka, okay, and cd java Sunday. This is where the program is saved. Okay, you can see the last one. So we do, let's check java c if we can compile. Yes, we can do. Let's say java c session 0601.java. all right, the program was successfully compiled. Then let's check the output, session 0601. So now you can see what happens for the first iteration. The value of j, because we are looking at for every value of I, let's look, this is the first iteration. First iteration, I was 0. So the inner loop, we have only one option. G start from 0, and you do this when G is less or equal to 0. So there's one iteration. That's why you get that single value for G, which was 0. And then it exits the inner loop, but before going back to the outer loop, execute this statement which says print new line. So it goes to the next line, and then when they come to the next line, the value of I is 1. And when the value of I is 1 in this loop, j will be equal to 0, and we do this as long as j is less or equal to 1, which means you have two values. when j equal to 0 and when j equal to 1. So that's why you see two values here, 0 and 1. And again, after printing those values, it has to go to the outer loop for the third iteration. But before doing so, you make sure that execute this statement to move to the next line. And by moving it to the next line, the value of I now is 2. So in the inner loop, now the condition becomes like this one, which means we have three values. Value when j equal to 0, when j equal to 1, and when j equal to 2. Equal to 2. So that's what you see on third line. We have this. Those are the values from the inner loop. And again, after showing these values here, it has to exit the inner loop before going to the next iteration of the outer loop. Again, make sure that it will go to the new line. So the cursor or the control will move to the next, to the new line, and then it comes back here with the new value of I, which is 3. And then for this inner loop, j will change from 0 to 3. That's why you need to add here like j equal to 3, and that's the values that you see on this line here. You continue until when I equals to 9. When I equal to 9, the inner loop will not execute because the condition is not true. Alright, so if we change a bit this program to reflect what we have in our example, let's see this. We don't put the value because we were printing just something like asterisk, so that's why we have a triangle of simple asterisk. So if we learn this, if we save this program now and execute it again, okay, so yeah, asterisk is not a variable, so I don't need to put it outside the quotation. I can put it inside the quotation because it is not a variable. It's a character, it's a constant. So we can do it this way. Now let's see what happens. And when we learn the program, so now you can see no, something is wrong. It has to be like a triangle. Let us check what is happening. Yes, it's because here we have a 3. We should not have a 3. We should have I. The value of j depends on the value of I. So let's save again. So I think you guys understand what we mean. When j was a 3, that means we're defining 4 columns everywhere. But we do not want to define 4 columns everywhere. We need to define the columns based on the value of I. If I is 0, we get 1 column. If I is 2, we get 2 columns. If I is 3, we get 3 columns. If I is 4, we get 4 columns. No, sorry, if I is 4, we get 5 columns, and so on and so forth. The point here, the number of columns are going to depend on the value of I, of course. Yeah, so we can say the value of I plus 1 because the loop counter starts from 0. So let's save again and come here, execute. Now we can see our triangle. We can see our triangle. Now you see it's exactly the same shape as the triangle we had when we replaced those asterisks by the value like this one. So if we replace those triangle by the value like this one, we get the same shape, but of course we display different information. Okay, this is what you see. Okay, this is what you have as the results of this example. So now let's see what happens, because we'll be coming back to this in many more examples. Let's see the use of break statement to continue and return. So we did explain the use of break statement while we were discussing the switch case statement. Yes, we can look at it again, but what about the continue and return? So let's see what happens. Break statement is used to immediately end the loop that contains it. So when you put a break inside the loop, it's going to terminate the loop and move to the next control. So it is used when you have like if statement to determine whether to break or not. So, and also break can be used in a switch statement. We have seen this in the previous examples. If you don't remember, please check the previous examples. Also check the assignment that you are busy working on right now, because we have switch examples, and we did use break. So let's look at this loop. So if we are looping and say as long as I equal to 10, we want our program to break, to stop the loop actually, because it's to terminate the loop which contains it. So since this break is within this loop, when this condition is met, automatically the control will exit from this loop, and probably if you have some other statements from here, you'll be able to continue. So as you can see, I was supposed to go up to 100, but it did break when I equal to 10, and nothing else should happen but to pass the control to the next statement here. So probably we can have similar examples for you guys to see what we mean, and that will be example number 2, 602, and we make sure that also we change here. Yes, we can still do it even here. We can say, okay, we don't need to modify our program. We can say also here, okay, if I equal to 5, what we do? If I equal to 5, let's say break. So if you look at the previous output that we had, and you are saying if I equal to 5, let's break, what will happen? So our program will not give the same results as the previous one. Okay, we can execute this one, and you see this is 62. This is 62, and we put Java session 0602. You can see. So after this statement, all right, because the next iteration, the value of I was 5, so we do not want it to move further. We want to exit from this loop. But interestingly, if you have like other statement here after this loop, because this loop ends where? This loop ends here. If you have some other statements, system out, print line, I have exited the loop. So when you break, it exits from that loop which contains it. So which means it exits from this section of code. It automatically comes to this statement, because this statement it's not part of this loop. So let's save it again for you to see. Let's do this again, okay, and see when you break. Okay, so you can see it automatically goes to the statement outside that particular loop. So which means what? The break exits from that particular loop which contains the keyword break. All right, so this is one keyword which is very important. So apart from this kind of example, you guys, you have seen that we have used this break also in the switch case statement. So what about the continue? So the keyword continue, it's used to skip the remainder of the body of the loop. To skip the remainder of the body of the loop, but it doesn't exit the entire loop. All right, exits the remainder of the body of the loop. it is different from a break, because a break, it exists from the loop, no further iteration. But continue, it exists the remainder of the body of the loop and go to the next iteration. So in the previous example, when I was 5, automatically exited from the loop. But continue, it doesn't exit from the loop. It ignores the remaining statements within that iteration and go to the next iteration. And of course, to be able to know whether you continue or not, you can do so using if statement. So now look at this simple example, a program which prints the numbers from 1 to 20, and we are looking at the numbers divisible by 5. If the number is not divisible by 5, we continue. So what do we mean by continue? We go to the next iteration. So let's say, for example, we have these numbers here. All right, we have okay, we start with I equal to, because it's I plus plus, I1, I2, I3, I4. So for I1, no need to go to this statement. Skip and go to the next iteration. That is when I is 2. And if this is not a true, don't go to this statement. That's what we mean. Skip the remainder of the body of the loop and go to the next iteration. So go to I equal to 4. If it is not 0, don't continue with this statement, but go to the next iteration. When I equal to 5, 5 divided by 5, it's not equal to 0. So if you check this condition, the condition becomes false. If the condition becomes false, it will not continue. It will come and execute this statement, which is why you can see the value 5 displayed here. Okay? So what about I equal to 6? When I equal to 6, the condition is true, then skip. Continue will be executed. If I equal to 7, again the condition becomes true. Again, continue. Continue means what? Don't take this statement, but go to the next iteration. When I equal to 8, condition becomes true. Don't execute this, but continue to the next iteration. When I equal to 9, again the condition becomes true. Don't execute this statement, but go to the next iteration. When I equal to 10, okay, the condition becomes false. When the condition becomes false, the keyword continue will not be executed. It will go to this statement, then print 10, which is what you see here, and it continue like this until when it reaches 100. So now, yes, let's look at this one, because we're saying if I equal to 5, break, maybe we can have one loop, because we are just explaining the concept. So let's say we want this program to show only odd numbers. What is odd number? The number which is not divisible by 2. If I divide by 2, modular division by 2, yes, if this is 0, what does it mean? This is even number. Okay, if you take that number, you divide it by 0, and you divide it by 2 and you get 0, this is even number. We are not interested in even number. We are simply interested in odd numbers. So when the number is divisible by 2, we need it to continue and check the next number. Alright, so then what we are trying to display here, we are displaying those numbers. You can simply say this is the number I. We don't need the print with ln, we need to simply print, and we put some space like this one. So you will get, maybe you can say I less or equal to 10. So you wanna get like 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. So when I is 2, continue to the next iteration without printing the value. When I is 4, continue. When I is 6, continue. When I is 8, continue. When I is 10, also continue. All right, so let's make this like example number 3. And also we save it as example number 3. All right, so this is what we have here, and you can see Java session 0603. Now you can see 135579. Okay, so and this statement comes after. Okay, good. So now yes, let's see what next. The next keyword. The next keyword is return. Let's check from the notes. After continue, we have another keyword, which return. So the return keyword is used to exit from the current method. So as of now, you don't really a lot, because so far we know one method, the main method, and when you use return, it's just to exit from that method. So if you need to return a value, because we are not yet returning a value because we are using just one method, but as you know, a method can return a value, like when you say int sum of two numbers, that method should return integer value, which is the sum of two numbers. Okay, this is something that we'll be introducing after arrays. But if I have some method like this one, int a, for example, comma int b, this method returns. This method should have a return keyword, and when the compiler reaches the keyword return, that means it has to exit from the current method. So this is a keyword return because of this one. We do have some method which start with a keyword void. When you have a void, you don't need to return. So we'll be coming to this one when you talk about the methods after arrays. Okay, to return a value, simply put the value after the keyword, after the return keyword. If I say return 5, for example, okay, doesn't matter what will be the sum. What will be the sum of a plus b? The method will return 5. Or I put a value like c, then I say return c, for example. So this is going to return the sum. The data type of the value returned by return must match the type of method's declaration. That's the point. If you are returning something like C here, if the return type was int, the value we are returning also should have the same type as this type. Okay? So when a method is declared void, when we declare the method as a void, like when you say void sum, for example, we do not have to specify any return keyword. So this is an example. Okay, so yes, in this example, okay, this is return example, the use of return statement. So we need to exit from this method. When you want to exit, we are just exiting if I equal to 5. That's the meaning of return, because when it defines the return, it automatically exits the method. So I is supposed to loop up to 10, but we said if I equal to 5, please return stop, in other words. So yes, we can have this as example and see how it works. So it's gonna be like our example number 4. It's gonna be like our example number 4. And here we put 4, and yes, maybe we say if I equal to 9, or if I equal to 3, okay, then you return. So simply stop. If I equal to 3, stop. So what do we expect? This program will display 0, 1, and 2. So that will be the output actually. 0, 1, then of course there is a space between those values, 1 and 2. and when I equal to 3, we not continue with this statement, but it will return, it will exit from this method. So let's check and see what happens. Okay, so we get this one. Okay, then we say Java session 0604. Okay, you can see 1012, and if you look at your program 0604.java, so you can see the program, your loop is supposed to loop up to 10, but you're saying as long as the value of I equal to 3, please exit this method. So that's the meaning of return. So okay, with this I think this is the end of what we needed to cover to finish our simple loops. Alright, so apart from those loops, we added those keywords: break, be aware on where to use break and how to use the break. Also we saw the keyword continue. Also we saw the keyword return. Alright, so this is what I expect you guys to memorize. This is the end of the session. So next I'm going to share again another short session for arrays. Okay, thank you very much. Don't go away, please.